What's going on, Jerome's? So the major news that broke last night is that the Vikings reportedly, allegedly, will not use either the franchise tag or the transition tag on slinging Sammy Darnold, a.k.a. America's quarterback, before the 3 p.m. Central Time tag deadline this afternoon, today. Now, that has been talked that Minnesota still interested in working to re-sign Darnold, but is likely to be without any tag. Now, I think what this is, it's a sort of a macro version of Kirk Cousins' last offseason. And Darnold, 4,300 yards passing, 35 touchdowns, 100-plus quarterback rating. We all know the score. But also, we know what happened in the two most important games of the season. So it is what it is against the Rams and the Lions. Now, Darnold got himself off the canvas, started showing off all that potential that he had, but it's just those last two games, I think, stick in the mind of the Vikings as well as stick in the mind of the rest of the market. Because, think about it. Have you heard any rumor or conjecture that, hey, Team X fully all in on Sam Darnold? Now, I'm not even talking about legal or not legal tampering. I'm talking about just rumors and conjecture. Like, there's nothing. There's been nothing credible or tangible there. So that's noteworthy. And, of course, Kevin McConnell loves everyone. Kevin McConnell wanted Kirk Cousins back. I'm sure that he wants Sam Darnold back, even though he's on his football journey. But I think at the end of the day, I think everyone knows that it's going to be JJ McCarthy's show. But I don't know. Like, Kwesi, I think Kwesi looks at this offseason like, hey, this is my time to shine. I have had a competitive rebuild with this roster. I took on all the dead cap hits last year. We have a ton of cap space now. Not a ton of draft picks, but a ton of cap space. And now is my time to rebuild this roster the way I want to be, especially since we moved up and got our future franchise quarterback in JJ McCarthy last year. So I'm not going to tie up a significant number in Sam Darnold this year. Now, everyone has a price. Like, if they could get Darnold back on the cheap to help supplement JJ McCarthy, yes, I think that's certainly possible. But I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I still think that Darnold signs elsewhere. Maybe not even just for the money, because I actually think that his market is going to be a lot shallower than people think. And it says a lot. Where, like we said, there hasn't been any rumor or conjecture. There hasn't been any steam. But maybe that's by design. Like, we could be completely wrong, and maybe teams are just keeping their powder dry, hoping that no one picks up that they're all in on Sam Darnold. And like I said, it only takes one team to break the bank for Darnold. But if I'm a betting man, I don't think that Darnold sees hide nor hair of the $40+ million per year. I don't even think that he sees the Baker Mayfield 3 years, $100 million type deal. He may sign somewhere else for the cheap, just to sort of get away from Minnesota, because even though Minnesota set him up for success, JJ McCarthy's here, and the Vikings aren't going to break the bank, so maybe those are non-starters. And maybe it's a spot too. Like, it's so interesting. It's a down quarterback draft class. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders could be fine, and it's a whatever free agent quarterback class. I mean, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins when he gets cut, Aaron Rodgers when he gets cut. Like, is that doing it for you? Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones? But maybe it's teams wisening up. Maybe if you're the Raiders or the Titans or the Giants, maybe you're looking around like, hey, if we take Sam Darnold and just plug him into what we have, is he going to have the same level of success as he had in Minnesota when he had great coaching? He had Justin friggin' Jefferson, best wide receiver in the game, Addison, Hockenson, Darissa, O'Neal, etc. Like, are we just add him to the Titans and he'll be that good? Or should we save our money, roll the dice, and just go from there? Same thinking with the Raiders, same thinking with the Giants. The answer is probably no. And I think that, and again, teams have cable. They saw the last two games of Darnold with the Vikings, the two biggest games of the season. And, the Rams game, whatever. 9 sacks, no one's going to survive that. But also, the Lions game was just so atrocious. Just accuracy, footwork is all over the place, just airmailing balls. It was bad. It was no bueno, right? But long story longer, what's the plan with Sam? So we got 10 thoughts on the issue. Number one, it's pretty clear they're all in on JJ McCarthy. And, not only because they drafted him, but they've had a good up-close look at that knee. Obviously, they're very confident in it because if they weren't all in on McCarthy or the knee, there would be some expediency in retaining Darnold, whether franchise tag, transition tag, getting something done quick. But there hasn't been any of that. So obviously they're all in on JJ McCarthy. Number 2, Sam back is not plan A. And, JJ McCarthy being the guy, that's obviously the omnipresent plan. But Sam back as the backup, that's not plan A. Because Sam's price tag to come back is probably going to be a lot higher than people think. But it's also not going to be 30, 40 million bucks. I think that he probably settles in at like 20, 25 million. It's probably more than the Vikings want to pay. All right, so I don't think that he's plan A. I actually think that Dan Jones could be plan A, but we'll see. Number 3, Darnold's market is not good. And we said there's no steam. There's absolutely nada out there. And all these teams that have the cap space and motivation to sign Sam Darnold, as we've pointed out, they could all, like, this isn't collusion, but this is how the market works. All 5 of these teams independently make a different decision. The Raiders settle with Shador at 6. Cam Ward goes to Titans at 1. Russell Wilson is ran back with the Steelers. Rodgers goes to the Giants. Justin Field to the Colts. Daniel Jones to the Colts. Whatever. All of them independently could go a different way, and that evaporates the market. So if all 5 of those teams find a different quarterback and the Vikings are all into J.J. McCarthy, who pays Sam Darnold? Where does that 35, 40 million a year come from? It's not there. Right? And that's how impactful those last 2 damn games were. Next up, number 4. Because after the Packers game, Darnold's getting $50 million a year. Easily. That's how impactful the last 2 games were. Interested, but it's got to be cheap. And I do think that the Vikings, let's go 5-6. I do think that the Vikings have an offer on the table. Just like the Kirk Cousins deal where it's like, hey, take this. If you can get more, God bless you. I wouldn't be shocked if it's something as low as a 1-year, $15 million deal where it's like, hey, we'll have this offer on the table for you for a couple weeks. If you can get more, go ahead. Right? So the Vikings interested, but it's got to be cheap and on their terms. And as we said, McCarthy's making less than $1 million. So basically you're spending $16 million on 2 quarterbacks. That's fine. Also, I think they're going to let Darnold price himself in the market. And he's going to hit legal tampering, open free agency, and as we said, it only takes 1. But I don't know if teams are just not knocking over tables and chairs to try and give Sam Darnold 35, 40 million. I just don't get that vibe right now because there's been zero steam and zero connection between Darnold and any of these teams. And I think these are the only 5 teams that would be interested in Darnold as their starting quarterback. Also, I said mark on table number 7. I think what the Vikings are going to do is that they're going to focus elsewhere in free agency. And it wouldn't shock me at all if Darnold sits on the free agent market for a while. For a while, like at least a week plus. So the Vikings will have that $62 million in cap space. They'll gauge the market, interior offensive line, defensive interior, cornerback. Like they're going to spend, but as we've seen from Christian Wilkins, free agency, as we've seen from Kirk Cousins, like Kwesi's not going to overspend. But he will get quality free agents in those spots, those positions of need, so that the Vikings and their limited draft capital can go BPA, which will be great. And then, number 8, if there's money left, I think they'll circle back. Because, as we said, I think that Darnold could be unsigned for a while, right? So I think that if Darnold is in like day 3, 4, 5 of free agency, there hasn't been any movement, they're not getting the knockout offer, all of a sudden, that 1-year, $15 million deal with the Vikings looks a little bit more tempting, right? And the last 2, if Sam is back, it's on a 1-year deal. It makes zero sense at all if you're Sam Darnold. It's like, hey, I believe in myself. Why would I sign a 2 or 3-year deal for below market? Because I want to hit free agency again. I want to show what I can do, even though I felt he kind of showed what he could do this year, minus the 2 games that mattered. And either he plays himself into a long-term lucrative deal with the Vikings or somewhere else. That's his thinking, right? But also, if he's back, he's not guaranteed to be a starter. I don't see a world where the Vikings bring him back on a $25 million deal and say, you're the starter, JJ's the backup. At minimum, it's going to be a competition. At maximum, it's JJ's job and Darnold, you're the backup, which certainly could be as well. But also, it's not going to be 25. It's going to be like 15 because the Vikings' decision not to tag Darnold says a couple things. Number one, they're all in on JJ McCarthy, and also they're comfortable with where that knee is at. Number two, they want him back, but they do not see him as a $40 million a year quarterback because otherwise they would have franchise tagged him. They do not see him as a $35 million a year quarterback because otherwise they would have transition tagged him. So that's where we're at. And I don't think the Vikings are alone. And this is a weird spot because, I mean, after that Packers game, like Darnold's getting stupid, like Trevor Lawrence money, Jared Goff money. But now, I don't even know if the Baker contract is out there. But we'll see. Like I said, all it takes is one. But right now, I don't know. I do not know what happens with the Vikings Sam Darnold. Actually, I do know. It's JJ McCarthy's team. And we'll just go from there. But your thoughts are thoughts. What's the plan with Sam Darnold after the Vikings declined to tag him, allegedly? Let us know. Comment section. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skol. Production value.